and welcome to Women March in Seneca Falls 2021. We're so glad you're joining us as we go virtual this year to actually celebrate the first 100 days of the Biden-Harris administration. The social justice aims of the Biden-Harris administration led Women March in Seneca Falls to focus on two things. The first being leadership and activism, and the second thing we focused on was a feminist declaration, a manifesto to redirect America to a sane, a just, and equitable social order.
As Susan just mentioned, we are about to highlight Women March in Seneca Falls social agenda, and you're about to see and hear all about it. And in the words of America's freedom icon, Harriet Tubman, she reminds us to always remember we have within us the patience, the strength, and the passion to reach the stars and to change the world. We sure do.
Hi everyone, it's Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. It's my privilege to send greetings to everyone joining together to celebrate the first 100 days of the Biden-Harris administration. Today we celebrate our persistence and resilience through the dark times and the work of generations that brought us to the historic election of our nation's first Black, first South Asian, and first woman vice president. We owe so much to the women who gathered in Seneca Falls more than 170 years ago to demand a more just world. They dedicated themselves to a righteous fight for progress. But that fight didn't end after the convention or with the passage of the 19th Amendment. Women of color had to keep fighting for suffrage for decades until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. Now it's our turn to take up the fight, because while we've made great strides, we know we still have far to go. As Vice President Harris often says, she may be the first, but she will not be the last. It is up to all of us to help the next generation of women go even further than we did. I know that all of you are up to the task. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your celebration.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, and welcome to the 2021 Women's March in Seneca Falls. My appreciation to my friends Melina and Susan, our lead organizers for this fabulous event. I'm also delighted to be joined by a true champion for women and families, our own Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. We've joined forces on many causes, and New York is so proud and so fortunate to have her fighting for us in Washington. And while upstate New York is always a lovely place to visit in January, when we march down the streets packed closely together, mostly to stay warm, sadly this year's in-person event is yet another COVID casualty. But we adapt and we persevere. And this time, we not only march virtually in our offices and in our homes, we're also gathering to celebrate the 100th day of the Biden-Harris administration. Yes, big smiles and applause for that. I don't need to tell you that the past 4 years were a nightmare for women, for minorities, for immigrants, for the LGBTQ and other marginalized communities, and anyone else who actually believes in compassionate government and progress and basic human decency. The previous administration did their very best to dismantle and set back women's rights, starting with stacking the Supreme Court and federal courts with anti-choice judges. But fortunately, that era is over, and thank God for that. So on this 100th day of the Biden-Harris administration, I'm proud to stand with you in support of the Feminist Declaration for a Just America. The Feminist Declaration is a manifesto to redirect America to a more just and equitable social order. And here in New York, women are no strangers to rallying together to create change. I love to brag to elected officials from other states that New York is the undisputed birthplace of the women's rights movement. The very first Women's Rights Convention took place in Seneca Falls way back in 1848. And when New York women secured the vote in 1917, we created unstoppable momentum toward the national victory of the suffrage movement, the 19th Amendment. But we didn't stop there. For through the decades, New York led the march for positive social change, for labor justice, gender justice, LGBTQI justice, racial justice, healthcare justice, environmental justice, and more. And the feminist declaration's call for progress and justice couldn't come at a more pivotal moment in our history. American women are currently facing a generational setback due to job losses they endured during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. Decades of women's economic gains are at risk. But we won't let women fall behind. I envision a future where women recover from this pandemic and end up even stronger than ever. That's why New York is working to expand access to childcare, increase job training opportunities, and striving to create a more inclusive workforce for women. And thankfully, with President Biden and Vice President Harris in the White House, we are looking at a brighter future for women, not just in New York, but everywhere. As the Feminist Declaration notes, a vision for an enlightened and feminist society means ending racism and discrimination. We will also continue to stand in solidarity with people of color who are facing heightened violence and hate. As advocates for 21st century gender equality and justice, you are our modern day suffragists, the female freedom fighters of a new generation. New York women aren't just changing our state, we're changing our country and we're changing the world. The torch from generations of struggle for gender and racial equality is what we carry into the future. The moral obligation we have to make it glow even brighter before we pass it on to the next generation, it rests heavily on our shoulders. But I know we can do it, and I look forward to marching with you shoulder to shoulder once again. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Marley Mars and I am so excited and honored to be celebrating with you today. What are we celebrating? We are celebrating change. I love change. Beautiful, beautiful change. To say the obvious, I guess a lot of things have been changing in our world recently. And whether you perceive this to be a positive thing or a negative thing, this change brings a lot of fresh energy, which always has the potential to gain momentum. So my message for you today is try to embrace the change and find a way to get excited about what's to come, because we don't know, and that's the fun of it. So I'm going to be singing a song off of my upcoming album, and this is called I'm Behind the Wheel. Sure, I might run a red light, but it's not even real right. And maybe I need a friend so long as he doesn't backseat drive. And every time Mercury switches up on me, I feel like I'm dead and alive at the very same time. Ooh. I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel. I'm driving, so let me. Thank you. I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel, I'm behind the wheel.
Let us not allow them to be stuffed out, because we are the light. We stand for freedom. We stand for hope. We stand for justice. And we stand for a better tomorrow. So my friends, I tell you, this is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what welcome to Seneca Falls. This is what democracy looks like.
The National Organization for Women refers to climate change as a climate emergency.
We do thank the Biden-Harris administration for rejoining the worldwide effort to join the Paris Climate Change Agreement.
Everyone
deserves clean air and water no matter where they live.
Now demands immediate and widespread action by the U.S. government, both to reduce and delay further climate change.
To include immediate and significant investment in carbon capture or other ways to reduce greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
increased inspections for methane emissions, particularly at natural gas mining locations.
Overhaul our infrastructure to include expanding access to improved public transit.
Building smart grids to increase wind and solar power.
And restoring wetlands and other buffers to protect our communities.
We need to level the playing field with priorities given to low-income and communities of color.
And ensure support for community-defined priorities.
And finally, now demands that the Federal Emergency Management Association
take action to assure that homes or businesses in flooding or sea level rise areas be relocated with aid provided for communities.
As an emergency room nurse in a rural hospital, it's my opinion that to have equitable health care, the services that already exist should be metered out a little bit better. There are many services in place already that help people find a doctor, have rides to their appointments, have services in their home, but these services are only for free to those who have Medicaid-based insurances. The group that is underserved is those who live on a fixed income that have insurance, that can't afford to go to a hospital or seek outer care because of the cost of deductibles and lack of transportation and many other services. There is a crisis in healthcare for sure. Many people go without that could be helped. When I think of people in this situation, I think of my father who lives on a fixed income. If he needed services, say nursing care, not for the acute stuff because that's covered, but things long-term like wound care and therapy or rides to his appointments, he'd have to pay for those out of pocket. So a family has to decide, do they pay for these services until they've used any savings that they have and then end up in a nursing home anyways because they are both financially and now mentally broken? Or do they go without these services and wait until they have failed and they end up in the acute care setting anyways? It's a real problem because everyone assumes that simply because you have insurance that you're okay, but you are not. Perhaps the most urgent gap in the system is the affordable insurance with services for those on low and fixed incomes. Because despite the current programs, the cost of medical care is unbearable.
The most pressing need we have for our education system here in America, not only in terms of our feminist future, but the future of our education system as a whole, is equity for all.
Is a multi-lensed view and an unbiased view of all of the many contributions women have made in society as a whole.
Women's colleges matter. Disproportionately among the residential liberal arts colleges that address social mobility, we educate a highly diverse array of students. Supporting the many kinds of educational institutions that constitute the American educational landscape matters.
Education requires highly qualified educators who are diverse and who prioritize equity as part of their pedagogical bedrock.
And our institutions will be required to be nimble, strategic, and thoughtful in responding to the changing demands of our ever-increasingly diverse student populations.
3.8 million students in our nation's schools speak Spanish at home. Students deserve to learn in their native language. Bilingualism is a strength, not a deficit. Las comunidades bilingües son comunidades fuertes. Apoyemos la educación bilingüe.
There is nothing that improves the human condition and expands human rights more than education. The most pressing need for the feminist future of education is to achieve universal, affordable access to education.
My name is Gabby. I was in Albion for 2 years. I was there for a theft-related charge. As far as medication for chemical dependency, you were expected not to be on any illegal drugs or actively using when you arrived at Albion, so no, you weren't given any health care. Pressure to be in a sexual relationship and pressure from guards to be in a sexual relationship. Peer sponsorship from people from home, even if it's just letters and visitation, you know, being exposed to somebody in that situation that's been through it, you can learn a lot from them and you can actually have a good experience with it. Suboxone is beneficial to me. I was sober because of it, and I think that would benefit a lot of inmates there. So if you are struggling with addiction, just reach out to somebody. There's always people to listen. I'm here to listen. And if anybody came to me with that situation, I would do everything I could to help them through it. Outpatient services are very good these days. I have to support that. It's very beneficial. Even just going to see a doctor for Suboxone program is amazing. And I know a lot of people that are sober because of it. And I think that's it. I think you just have to be able to accept where you are and want to get past it.
The United States is one of the top incarcerators of women in the world. Between 1980 and 2016, the number of women incarcerated in the United States increased by more than 700%.
Women have been fighting for equality since the beginning of time.
Every dream begins with a dream. Now, I had reason in my mind that I had a right to one or two things, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other.
I know a mite about women's rights too. See, we all been thrown down so low.
Nobody thought we would ever come up again. But we've been long enough trodden down, and now we've come up.
I have encountered riotous mobs and been hung in effigy. But my motto is, men, their rights and nothing more. Women, their rights and nothing less. You know, we women have to constantly fight for our rights. And once we get them, then we have to constantly watch for fear they'll be taken away while our backs are turned.
The American woman is no coward or slacker. She only wants equal voice. Nay, she demands equal voice. The time has come, the hour has struck. We are ready for full equality. Now.
So if you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, you keep going. If you hear shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. If you want a taste of freedom, you keep going.
Ain't gonna take it no more. We're tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Shame, shame. Can't just focus on the kids with wealth. Can't pick and choose who gets the health care. Take another look at the great divide. It looks dangerously similar to genocide. We're fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. We're tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. Tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Shame, shame, ain't gonna take it no more. Tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You break another mother's heart. Break another heart.
Like most Americans, I was well aware that America had a gun problem, but having kids in school really brought aspects of this close to home. As I began thinking about making work about gun violence, it became difficult for me to even begin researching the problem, since the idea of someone opening fire in a school is such an inconceivable, inhuman act. Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut was a particularly horrific example. Sadly, there have been far too many school shootings since then. To discuss a totally different aspect of parenting, part of the job of a parent seems to be processing the incredible amount of stuff that kids go through and grow out of. It was in the bag of used cloth diapers, clean but stained from daily use with my two dear babies, that I found inspiration. Using this thick layered cotton, I recreated the primary weapon used by Adam Lanza in the Sandy Hook shooting by recreating this terrible object in soft, puffy fabric filled with sentiments. I feel that I am combining these two terrible worlds, that of the shooter and that of the parent, in a single space. The ghostly white weapon is both reverential memorial and incontrovertible fact. This feels like a small gesture in the face of such tragedy, but I don't think it should be forgotten, especially while little has changed to prevent future occurrences.
Well, welcome to the Executive Committee meeting for WILT,
Women's Institute for Leadership and Learning in Seneca Falls.
It's always good to be in Seneca Falls, the birthplace of women's rights.
Well, as usual, we have a lot on our agenda.
Well, our agenda's been obstructed for 4 long years.
Obstructed, yes, but not deterred. 4 years of distractions.
And no leadership.
None whatsoever.
None at all.
But now we do.
We have real leaders.
Yes, we do.
President Biden.
Vice President Harris.
That's what matters.
Yes, to make a difference.
A real difference to all.
Hey, not just domestic, across the globe.
Leadership matters.
To countries everywhere.
We need global partnership.
To solve problems.
The world is in crisis.
We're not immune.
We're all in this.
Together.
There's been a lack of trust.
For 4 years.
Even our allies are worried.
If we'll keep our word.
Our bonds have been tested.
Many are broken.
How do we recover?
And regain the trust.
Leadership is needed.
We can be a model.
Of trust.
Of strength.
Of compassion.
Strong leadership and involvement.
That's what we need.
To save humanity.
To make us a caring society.
Where we can live in peace.
It's not just our moral duty.
It's our survival.
Leadership and trust are key.
Give us global peace.
So we can have peace at home.
It enables us to focus more clearly
on what we need to accomplish
in our own communities.
All right, who's ready for story time?
Me!
Do you want to hear about Cinderella?
No!
How about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
No!
Well, who do you want to read about today?
We want to read about these women.
Ah, and who do you want to read about?
Josephine Baker.
And why do you want to read about Josephine Baker?
Because she was a singer, dancer, and a spy.
And who do you want to read about?
I want to read about Alma Woolsey Thomas. She was a painter and a teacher. She was an art teacher. And I like drawing and she likes painting. And she thought color was life.
All right, well that solves it. And so let's read. Yay! Wait a minute, you're not yay.
We must all unite, for we are one creation. We must join the fight, together we are strong. We must do what's right, there's no more segregation. When you've seen the light, there's nowhere else to go. Just think twice before you cast your stone at someone's side. touch. We are here to America, America, God shed her grace on thee and crown thy good with sisterhood from sea to shining sea. Fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. Tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. Tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Shame, shame. Children need schools more than they need jails, and that's where our society fails. First 7 years creates a child's foundation, mandatory for a healthy nation. And we're fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. We're tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Shame, shame. How could we forget that the children come first? We left them alone and they died of thirst. Mothers and fathers confused and forlorn, and when the children are missing, well, there's something wrong. And we're fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. We're tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Shame, shame. Can't just focus on the kids with wealth. Can't pick and choose who gets the health care. Take another look at the great divide. It looks dangerously similar to genocide. We're fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. We're tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Fired up, ain't gonna take it no more. Tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You're breaking my mother's heart. Shame, shame, ain't gonna take it no more. Tied up, ain't gonna take it no more. You say cool down, we say step down. You break another mother's heart.
Break another heart.
America, America, God shed her grace on thee and crown thy good with sisterhood from sea